Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. My name is Sarah. If you're new here, welcome. And thank you for spending your time here with me today. Today's going to be a little different. I'm going to talk a bit more personally about my business and why I started, why I decided to own an online vintage store, why I decided to own a online business at all, what my motivations were, and if it's changed. So yeah, so far I've been doing a series about things that I've been learning as a first generation business owner, someone who owns an online business, and I've been sort of giving you guys like bite-sized views of what that process is like and the things that I've learned, and hopefully somewhere in the middle there were things that you guys found helpful. I say that I officially launched Hey Red Shop in January of 2020, so it was right before we started getting reports of COVID and everything like that. So in the United States, I think it was around February when we started getting the first reports and the first lockdown started. And that is when I registered my business as an LLC in the state of Virginia. So that's when I say I officially launched my business. But really, my entrepreneurial journey started years before that. I want to say 2015 was when I started realizing certain limitations working the 9 to 5 and trying to do the traditional route in terms of having a career and income, which I know are two separate things, but for me at the time they were one and the same. It was like one was tied to the other, no exceptions. The way I was raised was very much with the typical traditional career ladder in mind. And although I'm sure it is different in other countries, here in the United States, there's this idea that the higher your education, the more opportunities you have to make a higher income. And that idea had a grip on my family, my grandparents, my parent, uncles, aunts, relatives. In my immediate family circle and extended family circle, there was no one that I could turn to who had done things differently in their career. So within my immediate family circle, there's not a lot of variety. Typically, male, female relatives in my family go into teaching, nursing, retail, or into the military, and from there onto their profession that's assigned to them. But the idea of like, I was the first generation to graduate from college, to go to a 4-year university and have a bachelor's degree. So a lot, thinking back on it in retrospect, I think a lot of what they thought about what my career journey would look like is based off of things that they were seeing in TV shows and in movies and things that they had heard from a friend of a friend. For me, as someone who I went to college with the goal of starting my career as a writer. I wanted to write professionally. I wanted to be paid to write. I wanted to work for an employer that had connections to that industry. So things like publishing or marketing, things like that. And unfortunately, due to certain circumstances, I was not able to move out of my hometown, which had extremely limited resources for someone who was seeking that career. For example, the local paper, they ended up letting go of a lot of people there because they hadn't planned for the future. They didn't consider social media or future technologies when they were planning for the future. So places like, local papers were not really hiring or offering internships, and I ended up having to basically take what I could get at the time, which were more retail jobs. Working retail, I eventually got an administrative job and started working up from there. I was very fortunate in that I got a government job. So it's not a government job, I'll say that. So I got a job working for a contractor that worked with the military. And that, for a lot of people, was their dream because of what they thought job security meant, and having a job that was connected to the military or connected to the government offered a lot of job security. What I didn't realize in my case is that the cost of that. When you work with people who don't have to adapt and don't have to evolve and are not required to work or develop tools outside of their comfort zone over the course of decades, it can become a very toxic work environment, especially when there's no supervisor, there's no like HR. For example, where I worked, there were no human resources in the building and hadn't been ever, I think. My coworkers had been working together for, in some cases, over 30 years, working together in similar positions with similar companies over time. Walking into an environment like that as a new person with certain expectations that I had, was often in conflict with leadership, and in conflict, I don't mean like physical conflict. I mean, if I were to say, for example, that a comment was inappropriate for the workplace, which it absolutely was, that would be met with a lot of vitriol, and I would not have the support of my supervisor or manager in the way that in a typical corporate environment where there's, hopefully, varies from company to company, there's no accountability here, then it becomes kind of like every man for himself in a way, where you're having to really appeal to people's emotions and address rumors and gossip, and you really have to be aware of all of that. And I never felt secure in my position there, and was always made aware of the fact that I was one of the more recent hires. And that phrase, last hired, first fired, is absolutely something that happens and something that I've seen. I've been in the room with members of leadership when they made that decision based on who was hired most recently. So I never felt like there was any kind of job security, and this was like way before the confirmation from news articles on TV and on social media and other people saying these things. So when I would go to like relatives and family members and I'm like, hey, how did you work through this issue that you were having? And I was met with kind of like a disbelief, because either they had never come up against these problems before, or it was just something that was just in general outside of their wheelhouse, like dealing with confrontation or conflict in a way, in a space that had never had any kind of, that didn't have anyone in a position to address it. So the idea of constructive feedback or constructive confrontation, which is something that I learned about when I was in college, especially when I was working as a resident assistant there, is just about bringing together two parties, because often it's just miscommunication, misunderstandings. And, but the idea is that two people are willing to resolve the issue. Unfortunately, in my case, the other parties never felt like there was an issue to resolve. While I was there, and I realized that I had the job that I was supposed to have, and I was making money that made certain members of my family, which was like a huge part of my social circle, treat me with respect. I was very unhappy because I was like, I want to grow, I want to advance. And it seems very hard to do that in this kind of environment. And when I would mention this to like my mom or uncles and aunts, it was more, but that's not a problem. That's not something to be worried about or to consider in your future plans. That you have the good job, so you stick with the good job because it is a good job, and the whole reason why you go to college is to end up in the good job. So essentially, I felt like I was alone. There was a lot of gaslighting, there was a lot of harassment and bullying, and by the end of it, I realized that this is not the environment that I want to be in. It's not about the job, because the job itself, it was administrative work. I was learning a lot, but not because of anything that was already in place. It was because I was having to come up with solutions for things, and I was being challenged by the way that things had always been. And I wanted to make myself as efficient and good at my job there as I could be, and I had to do that basically figuring things out on my own. By the end of it, I realized that when I wasn't at work, I was thinking about work. I was thinking about, okay, tomorrow's going to be different, and this is how tomorrow is going to be different. I'm going to try this thing, I'm going to try that thing. And I did that every day that I came in. I would have to force myself into a positive state by the time I got to work so that I could continue throughout my day. And I would actively think about positive ways to respond to something throughout the day, because I was often experiencing like harassment and bullying. So in order for me to be able to keep doing my job and being effective and being efficient, I needed to think of positive ways to react or respond to things, or what things that I could do in order to make myself feel safe in the moment and feel like there would be some accountability in that moment. So I would move to another room where there was someone that I trusted, who was someone that I felt like would speak up for me if someone else came in behind me and made comments. So each day was like a minefield of me trying to navigate this toxic environment, and it was really tiring. It was exhausting. And I realized that, one, I wanted to find another opportunity, and two, if I ended up in the same place, which is entirely possible, seeing that everything that I thought would happen based on what my circle, my family told me would happen has not happened. Anything could happen. Anything is possible. And the only way for me to be able to make this transition is through another job. And that kind of made my like inner intuition go off a little bit. It was like, it was asking me questions like, why do I need to depend on another employer, you know, a company, some random faceless company and some random title-less job to provide me with the security, like financially, that I really want right now in this state. You know, ooh, I got all these student loans and they're not playing about these monthly payments and all of these things at that time. So I started reading a lot of personal development books, some books around finance, some around like your mindset, your mentality, some that were around like efficiency and organization. I distinctly remember Jen Sincero, I think that's how you pronounce her last name. I'm so sorry if I mispronounce your name. Like, she's gonna watch this video. Oh my god, if she did, that would be incredible. But she's the one who wrote the I Am a Badass series. She wrote another one about I'm a Badass with Money. She's a great writer and is a coach. And reading through her book, and I signed up for her newsletter, of course, you know, because they have such supportive, like, advice that felt actionable and realistic and so supportive. A few years later, I found Marie Forleo, and I also appreciated her style of encouragement. So I signed up for her newsletter. I started watching her YouTube videos. But all of this came just with me following my intuition, just following the urge to find out a little bit more about myself. It's like, okay, this didn't work. Maybe it's the mindset that I have. How can I change my mindset? How can I expand it to understand and to plan for my future? Because my future had felt rocked since the moment that I left college and I realized, oh, there was an economic downturn while I was in college. And in the 4 years that I had been gone, because when I was at school, guys, I had 2 jobs. My schedule was jam-packed. I was taking like 6 or 7 classes at a time. I was like, no, we're gonna make this work. I have grants, money that people gave me because they saw my potential, and I don't want to let anybody down, and I don't want to let myself down, and this is such a great opportunity. I'm going to my dream school and all these things, that I was like laser focused when I was in school. I had an agenda. If y'all saw those notebooks from the Batman movie, that's what my agenda looked like. It looked like those notebooks. I was not sleeping, but it's like on the other end of that, I was in a couple of organizations. I had some positions there. I had great advisors, but they were out of touch with the job market. And I say job market to also include internships, externships. What are companies like? How are they changing that? Because I realized that once you're out of school for a couple of years and you're not actively pursuing a degree, a lot of internships are not available to you. And I was like, so if you don't get one while you're still in college, or within some weird grace period where you have like 1 to 2 years, then you're out. You're out. You're not a part of the group that these are available to anymore. And I was like, this is also something that nobody mentioned to me during the process. Nobody was like, hey, internships are a great opportunity for you to get the experience that you're looking for so that you can get into maybe a company or an industry that you want to get into, but you don't have the experience. Internships are great. Externships are great. These fellowships and all these opportunities, these are really great. However, if you're not actively pursuing a degree, then it could be really hard to get at all. If you do, I mean, nobody's saying that you can't still apply if you're not actively in a college or attending a university. There's no reason to say that if you're not actively doing that, that you can't. But, you know, the guidelines say that they apply to this group. So, I don't know, do your thing. I'm not telling you not to. And I encourage everybody to take that chance. But I was really bummed by that. I was like, oh, so what am I supposed to do? What am I, like, really, what am I supposed to do now? So I was trying to try to find guidance. So I found these books, and they were very helpful for me at the time. And I was talking to my friends a little bit about it. And one of our, I can't remember who started it, but somebody in our class created a huge, they created a group on Facebook that was specifically about career problems, like issues that you're having finding a job. So it was a way for us to find out if someone worked for a company that had some job openings, they would mention it there and like give us a scoop so that we'd have the opportunity to apply. And a friend of mine told me about an opportunity in Memphis, Tennessee, working for a smaller printing company, a minority-owned printing company. And that was when I really was immersed in the entrepreneurial world. In Memphis, Tennessee, everybody got 3 jobs. And everybody says, I am this, I am a photographer, DJ, administrative assistant, or I am a teacher, muralist, and published author. Like, the hustle and grind there is incredible. And because I was working for this printing company, we were often in attendance at small business events, workshops, exhibitions. Like, there's a huge expo a couple times a year there and in New Orleans, and we attend both. And so I really got a better idea of what it takes to run a small business, to organize a small business. And I was like, okay, a lot of people do this. A lot of people freelance. A lot of people run their own small businesses or multiple businesses. I found out, like, it doesn't matter who you're talking to. You could talk to the cashier at Whole Foods and she will tell you that she has, she's also a tattooist on the side and sells stationery. It's incredible. I found myself feeling simultaneously inspired and overwhelmed by all of it, because I was like, okay, this is a lot, but my intuition was like, this is what I'm here to learn, because it required me to move across the country, which I had never done before, and move alone, also something I had never done before. Put stuff into storage, that was the first time I had ever done that. There were a lot of firsts, and as I was doing it, I was like, okay, my intuition was correct. This is something that I had to do. There was so much change and so much that was challenging me that it was exactly what I needed to do at the time when I felt really stagnant and I felt like I wasn't going anywhere, that I was spinning my wheels. So I have no regrets from that. Unfortunately, it didn't quite work out. Within, I want to say, 8 or 9 months, the company kind of reshuffled and went through a sort of purging of certain positions, including mine, and suddenly I was in Memphis, Tennessee with my thoughts about my career, and I started reading more books about your mindset mostly, and going online and seeing all these different kinds of people and their experiences taking the leap and starting their own businesses. And I was like, okay, so a lot of people are doing this, and the steps to register your own business are not a lot. They're not difficult. And I was like, I know how to stay organized. I know about the administrative parts of things, keeping up with registrations, that kind of thing. Maybe we could do this, maybe. And so so later on in the year, I went to visit my cousins in Virginia. I was like, you know what? Well, it started out as a visit, and then COVID was like, actually, you will be stuck here for the foreseeable future. But while I was there, I started talking to one of my relatives' wife, who has a bookkeeping business, and just started talking to her about the pain points of starting your own business and the difficulties that she's in now. And she was really helpful in the day-to-day practicalities of things. Her business is not something that's located online, so it did require me to find other resources to cover all of the things about having an online business that I didn't know, which was a lot. Sorry guys, my camera got too hot, but so you know what, I'm gonna see if I can set you down, and then we'll crouch, classic YouTuber style. Okay, so I went back and forth about it for months. I was like, yes, but then no, but then yes, but then no. And once I figured out that there were, I want to say successful in that they were able to do it full time. That doesn't mean they were rich. It just means that they were making enough money that they could do vintage reselling, secondhand reselling full time. And everyone uses a different method to do it. Some resellers are really into the like flea market, meeting people in person, word of mouth kind of thing. With COVID and everything, I was like, I'm not gonna do that. So some only sell through social media, like on Instagram or through Facebook or Depop. I decided that I was gonna launch an online store through an e-commerce website and take the opportunity to list, like have everything on my inventory there I was like, I'm gonna avoid all these extra fees that places like Etsy and Depop attach to each order, and I'm gonna do it that way. It's an enormous amount of labor and man hours to put something like that together and launch it. And I was not prepared. I was like, I'm already on the fence about this. But once money was spent, I was like, I'm into this. I'm in. So part of why I started my business is for creative and career freedom. You know, I want to be able to, I use my business as a way to develop other skills. So I know about search engine optimization now, and I know how to take and edit photos. I know how to record and edit video now, and so many other things. And of course, you know, financial freedom is a part of that as well. Like every year since I've started my business, it's paid for itself. Right there, I find that so successful for me. I'm like, okay, so every year we make enough money to keep going. Every year is another opportunity for us to make this even better. And did I have support for this particular business? No. My family was very confused. Out of all of the businesses that I could have started, this was something that they didn't understand. And I had been buying secondhand and buying vintage since I was a kid. So I am very well acquainted with the ins and outs of sourcing, what to look for, what to avoid. I knew already the standards that I wanted for my business, what I would not accept. As far as like materials and quality and the types of items that I would sell, I already knew that because I had been doing it so long that I already had the skills to accomplish that. So that wasn't even a question. But for individuals that have never bought secondhand and don't buy vintage, it was an interesting challenge, and one that I knew made it clear that I had made the right decision, because that became a part of the narrative for my marketing strategy. It's like, okay, if someone has never bought vintage, never bought anything secondhand, how could I convince them that it's an amazing idea? So that became part of my business's mission, to like combat stigmas still attached to buying secondhand and buying vintage, to educate people who have never done so, and it just kept evolving, and I kept getting, because I do in a way believe in signs and signals from the universe or whatever, or the law of attraction a little bit. Because I've just seen so many weird coincidences that I can't discount it, because it didn't make no sense. But they were all occurred in a way that supported my goal. So I started my business for many different reasons, and like I've said at the beginning of a lot of my videos, it's for career, creative, and financial freedom, essentially. But since I've started my business, I launched a blog that accompanies the store. So it kind of follows my creative journey and follows my career journey, because I decided to open myself up to creative freelance work as a content creator, as a writer. I got these skills now, so I'm trying to really keep my mindset open to new opportunities. And without having started this, I would still be in the same place, like emotionally and mentally, that I was before. And who wants to go back to not growing and not challenging yourself? And I just wanted to say that if anybody is out there that thinks that they're not the type of person to launch their own business, or is worried about what other people think, I get it. I do. And I'm telling you, you can do this. You can. Because you think you start your business for one reason, and you think that you have an understanding of what is required of you to make that happen, but so many other things happen for your benefit. I'm not telling you to like take out a loan for $2 million and, launch your business. I'm just saying your life can take you in so many different directions, and having a business is like, it's nothing I've ever done before. It's so hard to explain, because it required me to do things I did not want to do. Like, it required me to be more public facing, and I'm a very private person. So having to network and introduce myself as a small business owner, and, oh, what's your business? And explaining it, and having a very like clear way to introduce myself to other people as a small business owner was like, what? What? So I get it. I do. It could be really intimidating. Like, just mentally, just like, who am I? Well, you are now also a small business owner. That's who you are. So, yeah, that's that's pretty much why I started my business. I see the machine, the traditional career ladder, and the way that some employers wave the idea that you are dispensable and we can just find another you. And when you own your own business or are like doing your own thing, that's never the case, because you can't find another you to do what it is you're doing. So I just wanted to throw my 2 cents in there. It's hard. It's hard. So many long nights. I worried over every little thing. I was like, can they see this? Can they see that? Does this make sense? Do people understand? What can I do to make this easier? Just constantly thinking of ways to improve my audience or customers or clients' experience. And it's just a way of just pushing your mind to think about things differently. And I'm totally open to that. I am totally open to that. I was stuck in certain expectations for so long that when I started doing this, like started doing YouTube, every time I go to publish a video, it's some other problem. It's some other issue with either the platform or my software or something that I didn't think of that I have to work my way around. And it's like, okay, so now I know that thing. I've got that in the bank now as well. So I just wanted to say that and to encourage you all to pursue these ideas, because you'll never know unless you do it. There's not a book, there's not a workshop that can tell you what you will or will not learn, how you will or will not respond to something, or the problems you will or will not have. Like, I don't know her name, but I'm just going to say that pink sauce girl who started her business online through social media mostly. When her business took off, her biggest problem, which she did not expect, was the demand. Say what you will about that pink sauce, and say what you will about the quality of that sauce. But she admitted, and I did see that video where she was responding to some of the complaints. She could not keep up with the demand that people had for her sauce. That was a problem she had not foreseen. You guys can do it. You can do it. I believe in you. Yes, I do. So just thank you again for spending your time here with me. I really appreciate. Also, y'all are subscribing. Thank you. Y'all are awesome. And if you want to, you can follow the shop on Instagram. I will add all the links below. Or my personal Instagram. You guys, I don't know if you are into this. I have to mention this because it's one of those like mind challenge things, but it's not what you think. Peachtober, which is a spin-off sort of Inktober, is coming up. Fur Little Peach here on YouTube has a prompt list that she comes out with every year. I think she just came out with it today, and that's why it was on my mind. But every year she comes out with a prompt list for people to use for Inktober. And I didn't do it last year, but I did it the year before, and it was not good. But I am going to do it this year because, again, uses different parts of your brain, forces you to overcome certain challenges. And plus it's just so much fun, and the community over there is super supportive. So if you're looking for something to like get you out of your comfort zone, absolutely participate. And I'll see you guys next time.